Mom's face turned red. After abandoning you, after refusing to pay a cent in child support, and you're just going to forgive him because he's got money now. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. A harsh, bitter laugh that made Mom take a step back. That's funny, Mom. Really funny. Because he showed me his bank statements. Every single month for 6 years. $2,000 in child support payments. Where did all that money go, Mom? Because it sure didn't go to me. A color rained from her face. Sheila, and that's not even the best part, I continued, pulling the bank statements from my bag. He also told me why he really left. About the DNA test. About your affair. Mom sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. You cheated on him. Got pregnant with me and then lied about it for years. Then when he found out and left, you lied some more. You took his money meant for me, and used it for yourself and a new family. I needed that money, Mom suddenly burst out. Do you know how hard it was being a single mother? And then when Tommy came along, don't you dare try to justify this, I shouted. He made me work through high school. You made me pay rent. You watched me struggle to save for college while you had thousands of dollars of my money sitting in your account. Mom's shock transformed into anger. I raised you. I took care of you. And now you're going to side with him because he's dangling his money in front of you? Side with him? He might not be my biological father, but at least he was honest with me, which is more than I can say for you. She stood up, her face hard. If you accept his money, we're done. Do you understand me? You'll no longer be welcome in this family. I looked around the room at Tommy's toys, at the family photos that I wasn't in, at this house where I never felt at home. That's rich, Mom. Really rich. You made it clear years ago that I wasn't part of this family. The only difference now is that I finally understand why. I walked out of the house, letting the door slam behind me. Mom didn't try to stop me. I was at work when my phone started blowing up with notifications. Aunt Carol had texted, "Have you seen your mother's Facebook post?" I waited until my lunch break to look. There it was. A long paragraph about her ungrateful daughter who had abandoned her loving family for a deadbeat dad's money. Mom had really outdone herself with the drama, painting herself as the sacrificing single mother and me as the greedy, heartless child. The comments were even worse. I can't believe Sheila would do this to you after everything you've done for her. She always was a difficult child. Money changes people. My relatives, people who hadn't bothered to contact me in years, were suddenly experts on my life. My hand shook as I started typing my response. Since Mom wants to air our family drama on Facebook, let's tell the whole story. Let's talk about how she cheated on Dad and lied about me being his daughter. Let's talk about the DNA test that made him leave. And while we're at it, let's talk about the $2,000 monthly child support payments he made for 6 years. Money I never saw a cent of. I have the bank statements to prove it. Where did all that money go, Mom? I attached photos of the bank statements, making sure to blur out the account numbers but leaving the payment amounts clear. A response was immediate. The same relatives who'd been condemning me minutes earlier were now flooding Mom's post with questions. Is this true? Sarah, what's going on? $2,000 a month for 6 years. That's $144,000. Mom deleted her post within hours. My phone kept ringing with calls from relatives, but I ignored them all. Instead, I pulled out Dad's business card and dialed his number. They met for dinner that weekend. It was awkward at first. 10 years is a long time, but somehow it felt right. He told me stories about his business ventures, and I told him about my job. When I mentioned my dream of going to college, his eyes lit up. Let me help, he said. It's the least I can do after all these years. 2 weeks later, I was enrolled in evening management classes at the local university. For the first time, I felt like my life was moving forward instead of standing still. Dad and I started having weekly dinners. Sometimes we talked about the past, about what really happened. Other times we just talked about normal things. Work, school, movies. He wasn't my biological father, but he was becoming something just as important. A real parent. Mom tried calling a few times after I exposed her lies, but I let go to voicemail. Steve sent a text about tearing the family apart. I blocked his number. Tommy asked me at the grocery store why I didn't come to his games anymore. That one hurt, but I just wasn't ready to deal with any of them. Those 4 years with Dad were a gift I never expected to have. The doctors had given him 2 years at most, but he was always stubborn. I'm not going anywhere until I see you graduate, he'd say. And somehow he made it happen. He made the most of our time together. Between my evening classes and his treatments, we'd meet for dinner at least twice a week. He told me stories about his life, his business ventures, and even shared old photos from when I was little. Sometimes we'd just sit in comfortable silence, watching old movies or sharing a pizza. You know, he said one evening about a year after we reconnected, I spent 10 years regretting leaving you. Even after I found out you were biologically mine, I never stopped loving you as my daughter. I remember squeezing his hand, unable to speak through the tears. He came to all my college presentations, sat proudly in the front row, even when he was too weak to stand for long. During his better days he taught me about business, about investing, about all the things he'd learned in building his fortune. The last few months were hard. The cancer had spread, and he spent more time in the hospital than out. I took time off work to be there with him, studying for my finals in the uncomfortable hospital chair beside his bed. You don't have to stay, he'd say. Try and make me leave, I'd answer. He was there for my graduation though. He had to watch by a video call from his hospital room. I brought my diploma to him right after the ceremony, still wearing my cap and gown. His smile was weak, but his eyes were bright with pride. I always knew you could do it, he whispered. 2 weeks later he was gone. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath, telling him about my new job offer and how I was going to use everything he taught me. The inheritance was substantial. A beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 downtown apartments, and enough money to never work again if I chose not to. But more valuable than any of that were the lessons he'd taught me, the love he'd shown me, and the truth he'd given me. I moved into one of the apartments, rented out the other one, and the house. A rental income more than covers my expenses. But I kept my job anyway. Dad taught me the value of building something for myself. Some of my relatives still tried to play peacemaker, suggesting family reunions or holiday gatherings with Mom, Steve, and Tommy. I always declined politely. I've made my peace with the past. I tell them when we meet for holiday dinners, carefully scheduled when I know Mom won't be there. But that doesn't mean I need to revisit it. They understand, or at least they've stopped arguing. Aunt Carol even apologized for believing Mom's Facebook post without hearing my side. Uncle Jim admitted he'd had suspicions about the child support money for years but never said anything. Sometimes I'd pass my old house and see Tommy playing in the yard. Taller now, looking more like Steve every day. Mom still lies there with her perfect little family, posting perfect family photos on Facebook. I don't feel angry anymore when I see them. I don't feel much of anything really. Dad taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about love, truth, and choosing to be there for someone even when it's hard. He chose to be my father twice. First when he married Mom, and again when he came back into my life. That means more to me than any biological connection ever could.